were one of the top fitness internet celebrities out there. You achieved the American dreams, you built a mega YouTube channel, you run an 8-figure business. All of a sudden, you just disappeared completely from the internet. What happened?
I realized I was miserable.
Our guest today is
Mike Chang, a fitness celebrity.
One of the OG fitness gurus on YouTube.
with more than 4 million subscribers. Today, Mike is back with his flow training to help you not only look good, but also feel peace, joy, and happiness.
What is this thing that happened?
I accidentally discovered how to open up my energy. I was at an event. It was like a marketing event. A lot of entrepreneurs, we were doing talks about stuff. So at the last day of the event, I took some magic mushrooms.
You can go and achieve the greater things, but that does not relate to your happiness.
No, that statement is not true. But are there truth in it? Yes, there is. By achieving success, automatically somebody can move out of first stage of development. And here's what the second stage looks like.
And then you just stopped, and then now you're just in Bali, just living here permanently.
So what happened was, even though I had everything that I wanted on the outside, I wasn't happy on the inside.
What happened? Mike Chang, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Good. Would have liked to have more sleep, but just go with the flow.
What happened?
There's always more things to do, and it's a choice. A lot of nights I choose to sleep. Some nights I choose to stay up and wrap up some more things. Last night was one of those nights. I'm staying up. We just redid the filming room, and we put black curtains around the whole thing and need to change up all this stuff. So I'm just sitting there. My assistant was asking me, like, do we need to drop the TVs here, do this? So I ended up doing that for a little while, and
How many hours did you get sleep?
Let me see. Went to sleep around 3 something. Woke up around 7:30. So about 4 hours.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, 4 hours.
Can you function on 4 hours sleep?
Well,
With decaf?
with a little decaf coffee. I mean, honestly, actually, I was about to go hit this up. I was gonna hit up the mushrooms. 4 hours of sleep. I can function, but function is different than performing high.
Yeah.
But if I hit up about this much,
That's a lot.
yeah, that's a lot. So that's like about 3 times the dosage I would usually go.
Yeah.
One scoop is like, it's fine. 3 scoops like this. This is actually why I got into this. Actually, this is because these nights would happen, and I can't function drinking too much regular coffee. It just wouldn't work, and I get too jittery.
Absolutely.
But I do about 15, 16 grams of this, and it goes from barely making it, to high performing.
Do you still drink coffee?
Sometimes, yeah.
Because coffee is the ultimate nootropics that most people don't even know is a nootropic. But it is one, but there is all these kind of weird side effects.
It gets somebody to not be centered, and they can't focus. They only have energy, but energy is relative. If you can't do anything with it, if you need to go ahead and dig a hole in the ground, you need to go and carry things around, you need to go and mindlessly work out, mindlessly, not focus. Having a lot of coffee and caffeine is fine. But if you need to go do focus work, you can't function with a lot of coffee. The inside is too jittery. And anybody that needs to do creative, high imaginary type of work to where they can connect a lot of dots, you can't do it off.
Can't connect the dots.
Kratom, same thing,
So how does this? So first, what is that? And how does this, blend of 10 mushrooms? I actually love nootropics, but I'll play the guy who doesn't know what it is. What is this, and how does it help you connect the dots?
So this is just mushrooms dried up and then grind it up into powder. There's nothing else in it. It's 10 different mushrooms. What it does is it does a lot of things, actually. Too much for me to even know. But from my understanding, it gets the body to be relaxed. It optimizes all the basic functions in the body. So this way, when we are calm, our energy is flowing, our mind becomes open. That's why it doesn't have any stimulants. That's why I can put down like 15 grams, 16 grams there and feel fine. If I try to do that with coffee, drink a lot, it would just be too much. If I did kratom, I used to love taking a lot of supplements. I had my own supplement company, and me and the guys, we were the guinea pigs. You know, we would just try out all this stuff, and this is how we know if it works before we ever let other people try it. And I like this because I can get really focused, I can get really centered, really clear without any jitters, without any crash. And it was interesting how I discovered it. I had a friend of mine call me up, and he's like, Mike, have you heard of medicinal mushrooms? And up until then, it was only psychedelic mushrooms.
Yep.
I go, medicinal? The ones no, not those. The ones, I was like, no, I never heard of it. He's like, we need to come over and check this out. My friend is gonna come by, and he's been on this forever. The guy's like 70-some years old. He's like so fit, he's jacked, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I go by, and long story short, he introduced my friend and I to these mushrooms.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting because I felt good. That's good. Okay. I wasn't hungry that night. I wasn't hungry the next morning, and I wasn't hungry in the afternoon. And that was when I got really interested, because I eat like a horse, man. Like my appetite is so high that I'm constantly eating. So the fact of not being hungry, not having low energy, and being very, very clear. And I said, there's only one thing that I did differently, which is I took those mushrooms, I hung out with that dude the night before, and I'm not hungry for like 18 hours. Like, I struggle to fast because my appetite is so high.
I want to say this is very similar to the fasting effects. You become much more focused, your senses, your smell, your taste, everything you hear, like, becomes much more developed. So, and there is something that you mentioned that is really important, is basically this state of flow, which is what we all want to get to, because that's where we, not only, if you think just about work, that's where you get the most shit done and the best quality, but also that's how you feel the best.
Right.
And so what do you think? There is something in this mushroom that kind of force fasting?
It decreases the appetite, because most people, when they are hungry, they think that their body needs food, but the body doesn't. When we are hungry, most of the time we are just feeling lack. We're just feeling emptiness, not hunger, but an emptiness, kind of like a lack of fulfillment. And then what happens is we feel it in the gut. We feel it in the body, in the gut, and so we go, I have this uncomfortable feeling. It's here, so I must be hungry. And this is why somebody would eat when they don't need food. Or here's another way of saying that. This is why people will get overweight. Because why would you eat and you don't need food? Why would you be overweight in the first place? Yeah. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Someone goes, I really love it. Well, what's getting you to love it? Because you can feel when somebody's overweight, that means they ate until they were stuffed. And they didn't just do it once or twice, but they did it for an extended period of time. And that's how they got overweight. It wasn't just like one time. So why would somebody constantly want to stuff themselves over and over and over? When stuffing themselves become more comfortable than not stuffing, than just eating until it's enough, then we have to ask, well, why is that happening? And it's because somebody feels so uncomfortable on the inside, and that they need to go and feel so full that they are numbing themselves from feeling the actual discomfort. That's not the hunger, but it's discomfort in the body. That's how, and this is what we call emotional eating. And most people that are overweight have emotional eating, if not all, because there's no logical reason. Everybody knows when they should stop eating. They know, like, this is enough. The second, the third, the fourth, it's already over. But the fact that they can't do it and they come up with some reasons in their mind, later on they always know that, I shouldn't have had that. And all of this is diving in. You're asking about flow. Well, this stops people from being in flow. You're talking about intermediate fasting. The reason why fasting gets us more into flow is because our energy is more open, because we're not blocking our energy with all of this food, with all this stuff.
Something interesting you said is we don't need to eat. And that's actually very true. And you realize it when you do, for example, a juice fast or water fast. Or you just look, so you say, okay, I'm going to do 1 week just on water. Or you just look at our ancestors. They could go 2-3 weeks without eating. That was actually the norm. Because it would be, too cold, you would have to hunt for food, and you would have food only once every couple of days or every couple of weeks, and they could completely survive. And so the way we evolved as a human species was to be able to go through these extended periods of fast and survive, and not only survive but thrive. And now we have this marketing machine around food that tells us you need to eat these Kellogg's for breakfast. You need to eat breakfast. It's very important. You need to eat lunch. You need to eat dinner. Like you need to. This is the fuel to your energy. That's how you're gonna gather all this energy. That's gonna help you reach all your goals and get the life of your dreams. But it's actually completely untrue. Because something I also realized is when I fast, I just need to sleep much less, which makes a lot of sense because you need much less of your energy to digest.
Right.
And then it's focused to other parts. So the part about I don't need to eat is completely true. But I also know, we all know that eating creates dopamine, and we love that.
Yes. I think it all connects to it all connects to what it is that we actually what fulfills people. Because when we aren't fulfilled on the inside, we always look for something on the outside to replace it. For some people, it's food. For some people, it's success and work. And for some other people, it's like love. It's not that once we are fulfilled, we don't have those things. It's just that we're just not attached to it. Now we can, we can have it, but if it falls away, if it changes, it doesn't disturb our sense of peace. Going back into flow, I remember when I started to study that, I started to learn like what's really happening, because it was really fascinating. Because when we are in flow, we operate at the highest. But why is that? And I started to also notice that when I was when I didn't have much food inside of me, it was easier to focus. I was more creative. And then I also noticed the opposite to be true. After lunch, I'll be at work and I eat lunch. The next 2 hours was a struggle. I'm just nodding off. I'm falling asleep. And then I feel good, and I got this little sprint before work is done. And I started to see that pattern. But it wasn't until many years later that I started to really study what was happening. And all of it, the basis of this has to do with the energy in the body. It's like now when I look at it, it becomes really simple. If the energy in the body is flowing, if it's open and it's running, our mind works, and it works well, because the mind and the mind is the energy. It's like there's no difference. The energy that's in our body is the reflection of it, the expression of it. Part of the expression of it is the mind. So if we are blocking the energy for whatever reason, it could be extra food, it could be lack of movement, lack of sleep, it could be stressing the body. It doesn't matter. If whatever it is that we're doing, if the energy is blocked, our mind functions lower. And so when we understand that, and somebody's like, their mind is not working really well, a lot of times people think I need more information because I can't seem to know what to do. They think they need more information. Not true. This took a lot. This wasn't like I read about it and go, oh yeah, I figured it out because I started to test this. And I started realizing that when I was blocked, I wouldn't know. I would be confused. I wouldn't know exactly what to do. I'm sitting there weighing out pros and cons on things. And then without having to learn more information, simply by opening up the energy inside, by being really still and inside, suddenly the answers became really clear on what it is I needed to do. Not my knowingness for everything, just what I needed to do. And that was all life is. We don't need to know the steps in the future. We just need to know what to do now and now and now. And if we always knew that, there's no problems, because we always need to know what to do now, because we can only do something now. We can't do something in the future. So in the future is still always now. And suddenly life became really simple. I know for me, I stopped wasting so much time on trying to figure out what to do. It became less and less and less. There was less confusion on trying to see like what is it that needs to be done? How does it work? I just knew this is what I need to do. I do it, and then the next thing happens. And that's how life started to unfold in a very different way, much faster.
So let's talk about this kind of quest for success that you were in before, and that most people are in. So you were one of the top fitness internet celebrities out there, probably about 8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You achieved the American dreams. You built a mega YouTube channel called Six Packs Shortcut with about 3.5 million followers, which is a lot and was even more back then. You run an 8-figure business. All the guys knew you because they wanted your six packs. Probably a lot of women also knew you.
Actually, mostly men.
Mostly men, okay.
Mostly men.
So you were basically the definition of a top 1% man, which some call define as 6 foot, 6 figures, 6 packs, except for you it was more 6 foot, 8 figures and 8 pack.
5'10", I would say.
5'10", okay. But 8 figures, 8 pack. And then all of a sudden you just disappeared completely from the internet.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I realized that I wasn't able to become happier. I wasn't, it wasn't that I wasn't be able to become happier. That wouldn't be the right way to say it. I realized I was miserable. That's more of the accurate definition there. I realized I was miserable, but I didn't realize it just because I sat there, thought about it, analyzed, looked at my life. It didn't happen that way. It happened because I experienced how it was like to be very, very free, very fulfilled. And when I had that experience, then I was able to know how miserable I was. Until then, I couldn't tell. It's like you know that story about the men that lived in the caves their whole life, and then they look at the shadow on the wall. You heard that one? And then it's like I don't even know the story really well, but like they seen the shadows there their whole entire life, and they never got out of the cave, so they never knew what was behind the shadow and all this stuff. It's the way that we know how we are doing, the way that we know the difference is that we have reference points. We can compare it to something. Without the comparison, we don't know whether or not we are doing good, doing bad. We don't know what is beautiful, what is ugly. We have no comparison. It's just what is.
Yeah.
And that's how my life was. But when I had the experience of feeling this sense of freedom because my energy opened up completely, I realized instantly that this is not how I want to live my life. I don't want to be so miserable. I don't want to be so trapped. But see, it's so interesting because people that are listening, they know how it feels like to be in their life now, but they don't know how it's like to have a elevated sense of energy, to have a expanded mind. They can go, well, my mind is expanded. Good. Now imagine it 100x more.
So what is this thing that happened that in the middle of you building this big company and having this very successful material life, let's say, but feeling actually miserable from the inside, what happened? Because you're saying like, I just had this kind of like window or where I just realized like what is true flow and freedom and happiness.
I accidentally discovered how to open up my energy, how to clear it completely. Accident. I can't say I knew what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what it was that happened at that time. I'll give you the short version of this, because the story is interesting, but it's I was at an event, and it was like a marketing event, and a lot of people went there, and a lot of entrepreneurs. We were doing talks about stuff. So the last day of the event, I took some magic mushrooms, psilocybin.
Interesting. Psilocybin, amazing. Okay.
Yeah. And now, usually at this point, when somebody's hearing this story, they go, right, I'm going to go after those mushrooms. And what happens is they don't experience this. Because I've studied this, and I've tried to recreate it. And I realized that my experience was very different than most people's who had taken mushrooms go, oh, I had an awakening. Yeah, but it's a little bit different, because what actually happened with me is not just a experience of psychedelics. What happened with me is that after I had an experience of psychedelics, I opened up a dormanted energy that's inside of our body, that's inside every single person's body. Most people don't know it exists. The people that do know it exists never experienced it. And then you have a very, 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 very small percentage of people in the world that have actually experienced this energy being unlocked, being unleashed. When it happens, there's no doubt that it happened. There's no doubt. You're like, man, I wonder if you wonder, it did not happen. Because when this energy inside gets opened, you become different. You are not you anymore. The idea of us as a person is this identity, story, all of these things, right? My life and all those things are so far like a speck that's in the distance. And now what you see and understand is infinitely more, by far. That is not you anymore. You are like, this is my life. Here's what I want to do. Here's my goals. But when that becomes so far away, that means our awareness went from like this to expanding so far. That's what I experienced. And when I accessed that, instantly I knew I'm living in this little bubble of a life in this little cave thing and just being so trapped. And I'm not gonna. I don't want to go back.
And this is something
it's like
that
opening
stayed.
a Pandora's box.
This is something that stayed, or is just for the moment of the experience that you felt that way, and then you're like, I actually want to feel that way forever, but I need to work towards it because it's not gonna come on its own.
It stayed for about 2 weeks, and then after that, it started to decrease. It never closed up to how it was. Never went back, but it closed up probably about 50%, I would say. And so, but from that point on, it became my passion, it became my obsession. I want to know what this is because nothing can touch it. Nothing. It doesn't matter what the success is because you can't buy this.
Yeah.
Nor can you take the amount of substances to access this. You can't. I tried. You can't do it. So therefore, there's only one way to do this, and that is to go learn, do a lot of work, clear everything. And to me, that was more valuable than the money, than the fame, than all the business stuff. I don't care about that. I know how it's like because somebody may never have gotten there, and they go, I want to do that because it's gonna be so great. Well, for people that have gotten there, how is it? They will go, well, yeah, it's great, but exactly.
Absolutely.
So I was already there, and I knew, but that wasn't enough. But then when I had this experience, those successes was like a tiny little speck in the distance. It was so insignificant to an experience of life that was beyond what I could explain. So then all of my time became, I'm going to figure this out because I want to live the rest of my life being in this state. This is exactly what I wanted, but I didn't even know how to fathom this because it was so out of my understanding of what could even be done. We call it happiness, but this is beyond happiness.
It's a sort of higher level of consciousness or subconsciousness.
That would be more accurate. Very high level of consciousness.
So
yeah.
So one of the key messages that you have now that you communicate to people is, if you have big dreams and objectives, go after them, go all in, give everything you have, that's fine. But I just want you to know that your level of happiness will not change or be affected whether you achieve these goals or not. And that's the case even, and that's really interesting, if you manage to make your passion your work, which is what you did with a six-pack shortcut. So basically you're saying you can go and achieve the greater things, but that does not relate to your happiness. Can you explain this?
Yes. So this depends on the stage where somebody is at in the way they experience reality. If we were to say, if we were to say, is that true? Yes or no? I would say no. What I said there, like that statement is not true. But are there truth in it? Yes, there is. So there's always this gray area. There's an understanding. It's important for people to know. And so what is it then? What's the gray area? If somebody was to go and achieve some type of success, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what business or what industry. There is certain factors that are needed to achieve success. You can't be in this mentality of the blame game, complaining, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You have to take responsibility. You have to have some type of discipline. You have to be able to communicate enough to be able to work with your team, work with your customers, etc. Certain things need to be done in order for you to achieve any level of success. By achieving success, automatically somebody can move out of this first stage of development. In this first stage, we will call this negative mindset, victimhood, complaining and blaming. The world is all against me. I am powerless. They automatically move out because they have to have that in order to be successful. Yep. Now, once they're in this second stage, they will not get out of this with the same approach. No matter what level of success they reach, they will never get out of the second stage. Not until they do something very, very different. And most people don't know what to do or know why they need to do it. So therefore, they will basically be out of the first and they're in the second. Here's what the second stage looks like. First stage, I don't have power, right? I'm controlled by my parents. I'm controlled by the government. I'm controlled by the law. I'm controlled by this weather, by the city and the town. I'm controlled by this genetics. Now, second stage, I have power. I can do what I want. I control everything. I made this happen. I made this happen. I made this happen. There's me, right? So now somebody feels empowered, but they want to control everything. And so what happens is it's a lot of work to control things. You want to control all the people instead of letting them be free. They're on your team. Great. We call this micromanaging, right? So, but this becomes the mentality, and this is the second stage. And what a person needs to do is they have to learn to now let go of all of that. But it's hard because to get to there, they had to control everything. And so once they get to this stage, now they have to let it go. So it doesn't make sense. Why would I let it go? This is what built everything. This is what got me here. Yes, it's what got you here. But this next path, you have to let go. Now, when it comes to a business, we can explain it in business-wise and we can explain it inner development-wise. And in business-wise, letting go means scaling. It means replacing you, right?
Yes.
In inner development-wise, this means letting go of fear. This means letting go of the need to be right, the need to be more.
Does it mean like realizing that you barely have any control on anything? Because you can't influence anything that's happening outside of what you are doing.
Well, you can control things. Like here, see, I'm controlling this, and look, I control this, and I bring it back. I control that. You see, I just did it. You see, like I lift this glass and I put it down. So what do you mean I can't control something? You see?
External factors, which basically make up most of the situation. For example, in business, it could be there's so many things that I can control, and even in let's talk about relationships. It's more interesting. I'm in a relationship with someone, I can do my best, but I still can't control how this person will react.
Well, yeah,
Or-
you can. You know, you say this, they react in that way. You know, so you don't say certain things. So I'm being
So what's this
devil's
next-
advocate.
So
you
what
know?
does this next stage
Isn't that
three
true
look
though?
like?
Right? You know, if you want a certain response, you may need to say this. You may need to do this because if you did that, you get that response. You know, you see.
Yeah, but this is not sustainable. At least for me, if you are a bit more expanded in your way of thinking, like I'm not, it's almost like manipulation. I don't want to manipulate someone for the rest of my life. I want to be with someone who understands the common basic principles, and I mean, who is basically more self-aware.
If we go back to the question of can we control, you see, so it's not whether we want to control, right? The question is, is it true that we don't have control? You see, this is an interesting question because we can debate and say, I do have control. Look, I'm explaining all these things. This is control. Hey, I want this person to act this way. So I say this, do this, and they act that way. Now, is it 100%? Well, it's not 100%, but if you've done it enough, you'll have a pretty high percentage of getting people to do something, say something, think something. This is the world that we operate in. You know, this is how businesses scale and all of these things. So technically, we have control because right now we're talking about I don't want to control because it's not good. But right now, what happened? So then the question becomes: do we have control? Right? Because if we do have control, then we can say, I don't want to control because of these things.
Yeah, we have control. We do have control. Yeah.
And in reality, I don't think we truly have control. You see? So, how is that, right? You see how these things become confusing. But here's why. So, yeah, you see, we just talked about I can control this, control that. But if we look at control, if we look at the definition of what does it really mean to control, right? So then we have to we will say control is the ability to be able to do what we want, get something to happen the way we want, right? To be able to create a certain outcome and like be totally free to do what we want. But if we had control, if we look at the program that we run, don't we all run a program, a way of thinking? This way of thinking, did we create this way of thinking? Because it's like you teach somebody something, and then now you're free to go do what you want, but you already know they're going to do this because you programmed this mind to do it. It's like telling a dog to go here, go here, go here. And now you're free. So they think they're free, but then they go there, go there, go there. Just exactly like you have them practice 1,000 times. So does this dog really have control to run where he wants, right? Or did you program him to go and do that? So now if we look at us as human beings, did we get programmed? Did we choose who our fathers and mothers are?
We don't.
Right? Our friends and our environment, our schools and our uncles and siblings, and we didn't. But yet we can all agree that they influence the way we think. They influence the things we were interested in. They influence what we have access to, which then influences the skill sets that we can build and so forth.
Absolutely. I mean, related to that, you grew up Chinese in the US in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think you had a schizophrenic father.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not easy, basically. And this is exactly linked to what you just talked about, the way we're kind of programmed, and the relationship with all these success things. Do you think that past traumas, insecurities, relationship with parents are the key drivers behind some of today's most successful people's success? In other words, do you think that success, as most people idealize it, comes from a healthy or kind of ideal source of drive?
There's always a drive. There's always something that gets somebody to take a certain action. And if they have a very high drive, then they have a very big reason to do so. A lot of people that come from lack, come from broken homes, come from knowing how it's like to suffer, they have a drive to succeed. They have a drive to help, to support, and vice versa. You know, people that don't sometimes don't, but that's not always true, because sometimes people just have a longing to go and do something, and it's not coming from lack. It's not coming from this need to save people. It's not coming from their own suffering. It's just coming from a pure desire, a passion, interests. So it can come from both ways. I think we hear a lot of stories these days of the I suffered and then I was able to change my life and then this is my success story. We hear those.
This is more of a marketing thing than
because it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because if someone goes, you know, my life was really awesome, everything was great, and then I became more awesome,
yeah.
nobody's gonna care. Nobody can. The people that are actually listening to these things want to be inspired. So, but this does happen.
My life was awesome. I grew up with amazing parents, but it's true. Like it's true. Yeah, it's just interesting. I have to reinvent my early life to be more interesting for people to listen.
Yeah.
How can people stay focused on their goals even when they're facing difficulties? Because it's very, it's much more easy when, you're kind of this flow state, but obviously life is hard, and you will never live a life where it's just this kind of linear path that's just easy. But like the hardest is, how do I stay focused when things are hard out there? More mushrooms.
We have to have the ability to control our attention. If we don't have the ability to control our attention, then we need walls, we need blinders. We need to control our environment. We were talking about, if I can't control my attention, let's say I'm a married person who is committed, who is faithful, and I can't control my attention, I can't be surrounded by beautiful women. It'd be a big problem. So I don't want them around. Oh, she's too attractive. Get her out of my face. I don't want to look at her. Because if she's around, I'm going to stare. And then she's going to come talk to me, and then I'm going to get so happy, and then now we start to create some problems. The ability to control our attention dictates what we focus on, and therefore where our energy goes and our action follows. So if the more we lack the ability to control our attention, it doesn't mean we won't succeed. It's just that now we have to control more of our surroundings, more of our life. But when we have good control of our attention, we can let go of more control because we can stay focused. We don't have to. We can have distractions around. We can have things around, but we are still directing where our attention goes. Therefore, we're still doing what we want to do versus having that get hijacked.
What do you think are the biggest obstacles that prevent people from living in peace?
Well, we can look at a lot of the external factors. They are true. Negative people around, society and all of the restriction type of stuff, all of those things. But ultimately, the real answer I find is if we can be okay with who we are. If we can be who we are, be okay with it. The idea of lack itself is not even real, because to say it's lack is to say that I need to be different. So we don't even question it. We become okay with the way we are at the moment, right now. And then when we are okay with who we are at peace. Because if something doesn't happen the way I want it to happen, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't change my sense of self. If I go and pursue something and it doesn't do a good job, it doesn't matter. You see, like now we don't need all of these external things to happen in a certain way because we are okay with the way we are. The only reason why people get so upset with things is because they need a certain outcome in life. They need a certain outcome to get them to feel better about themselves. When they're okay with who they are, they don't need specific outcomes. Outcomes will happen, they always do, but it doesn't change the way they feel. And therefore, when the way they feel are not constantly fluctuating, they're not being emotional, because emotional only comes from judgment of things that are happening. This happened, I don't like it. This happens, I like it. So they cannot ever be at peace when these two things are happening, the good and the bad. Because if you judge the good, then that means you also judge bad. When you let go of all of that, now you can be at peace. You see, that's the core thing. Everything else, the external factors and all that, they play a part, but the core thing has to do with just simply for a person just to be okay with who they are. That means not wanting to improve. And that is tough for people. But that is the primary thing. Because by default, if you want to improve, you're not okay with who you are. You want to be different. So how can you fully accept yourself? And if you can't accept yourself, how can you be at peace? Because now you always want something to happen in order to feel better about self. And then when that something doesn't happen, the peace gets disturbed.
How do you learn to let go?
So be okay with who you are. I guess the question becomes, how are you able to be okay with who you are? That's the real thing, right? How can we be okay? So then we can do this on multiple levels. We have to.
Yeah.
On one level, the mind. So there needs to be an understanding of this. So this way, somebody's got to understand it so well that they can debate against somebody else. One person goes, "What do you mean, man? Life's about improving. Life's about growing."
Yeah.
And then you got to be able to debate this. That's how well you have to know this. Because if you don't, then you cannot have this conversation with the rest of the world that does not understand this. Nor can you have the conversation in your mind with the other part, the old programming, that will go, wait, maybe I should go ahead. Maybe I do need to get better. And now, what is the comeback for it? If you don't have a comeback, then you're going to go, right, I need to be better. And then suddenly you fall back in, I'm not enough. I need to go chase again. Peace is gone. So, mind, we need to understand why this is true and connect the dots to how this creates not only just peace, but creates everything else that we actually wanted, that we want now. Then the next thing is we need to let go of fear. Because fear is what blocks us from feeling peace. If we just understand it in our mind, we don't feel at peace. We only feel at peace when the body is at peace. The body's at peace, which means the energy is peaceful. When the energy is peaceful, there's only one thing that blocks that energy. We call it fear, which is just an umbrella, a name for certain types of energetic frequencies. Because these frequencies create a certain sensation that we call fear-based emotion, negative emotions, So when we let go of that, automatically what we feel is peace. So everybody who is trying to create peace will never create it. It doesn't happen that way. We don't create white by just painting white things on there, because underneath it will always be black, it will always be brown. So what we do is we remove everything. And when we remove everything, the default thing, that is what we experience. And that default thing inside of us is peace. So we have to remove everything blocking it. And there's only basically the manifestations of fear blocking it. So we do that. So now when we do that, the emotion is also peaceful because we remove the fear. The mind, we understand why we need to pursue that. And then the last part is the body. The way the body supports this is really simple. Relax. But relax is very general, right? So let go of tension all the way down to the core. How do you know when you have let go of enough tension? If you question it, keep going. You're not there. And at some point, when you do not question it, there will be a point where you don't question it, because you will experience a sense of knowing that is so high, you will know the answer. So if you ever question, you're not there. once you don't question anymore, it's because you access high states of consciousness, so high that you don't question things about yourself anymore, because you know. That's how you know, when you don't question anymore. So if someone is still questioning, you're not there, just keep going. Don't worry. You're on the path, keep going. When you don't question, that's when you know. This is not a theoretical, mind puzzle thing. It's simply because we have accessed a state of consciousness that is so high that our understanding doesn't require us to question things. You see?
Do you think people can remove this fear layer on their own? Because there is so many things you can go to therapy. You can do a lot of different exercises. You can meditate. You can fast for a couple of days. You can take mushrooms, or the medicinal plant way. There's so many things that can be done, and there's so many different types of therapies that can be very complex for people to even figure out, like, how do I even start? Like, I'm a 30 years old woman. I feel low on energy, or I might be depressed. I don't really know what this depression thing is. Might have anxiety. I overreact to things. My energy is negative, basically. And I want to build this positive energy, because I know that positive energy will attract positive things in life, positive people. And ultimately, I deserve this positive energy. How do I even start?
Well, starting is simple. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I always look for the simple, because if it's simple, it can be done. If it's complex, good luck. On the level of the body, I always look at three things, because if you don't look at body, mind, emotions, it's not effective. It's like looking at business and just, it's just about finding customers. No, you don't have anything to sell. Good luck. Vice versa, right? So the body, relax, move, breathe. Relax. Where are you tense? Relax it. How often? As often as it gets tense. If you're constantly doing this, stop. Every time it's going to come back, and then you're going to stop it. It's going to come back, you're going to stop it. If you're constantly grinding your jaw, stop. If you're constantly clenching, stop. Right? And you keep stopping it every time it happens. And it's going to happen over and over.
This requires you to be very, very self-aware. Because probably a lot of people don't even realize.
And they don't have to be very self-aware.
Breathe, and then myself, I'm like, fuck, like I'm not breathing. Like I'm tense.
They just need to, the way they become more self-aware is by doing these things. So where do they start? They start where they're at now. Right? Whatever level of awareness, doesn't matter. Right? You're aware of 1% of your attention. Great. Let's start there. So then now this person's going, okay, so relax. Why am I relaxing again? Well, really simple. When you relax, the energy can flow. When you're tense, the energy gets blocked. It's like a tube, and then when it's tense, the tube tightens, and then things are blocked, right? And then opens, flows. That's it. Okay. Number 2, move. Not all movements are equal, but to start, just move. Do what you like and move. Why? So this way the body can actually come back into harmony and balance. If you like to go and exercise and bodybuild, go do it. You like to go play tennis, do it. You like to go walk, go paddleboard, whatever you like. Just go and move. So someone goes, I want to do the most effective thing. Well, yes, you can do the most effective thing, but if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to maintain it. So what's the point? Absolutely. Why don't you go and do something that may not be as effective as the most effective, but it could yield you, let's say, 70% of the results. And 70% is better than doing the most effective, 100% results for 3 months, and then you fall to 0.
Absolutely.
Right, so just move.
So how does this regular physical activity contribute to overall well-being and happiness?
So when somebody moves, the energy starts to circulate. They can expand, right? Lymphatic system gets activated, which basically means their ability to go and remove toxins. So the body starts to come into harmony. Cardiovascular system starts to open up. In other words, they can breathe. People that don't move can't breathe really well. And we're talking about breathing, right? You don't breathe, you die, right? You struggle to breathe, you struggle. The way you feel in your body is constant struggle if you have problems breathing. And people are dealing with that. Their lungs can't expand and their lungs can't collapse. They just go, ooh, 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 ooh. They're always uncomfortable. How are you going to be peaceful if you're always uncomfortable? How are you going to be happy? It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you can't do something like the basic function of being able to expand your lungs, you're going to be always uncomfortable. Move, right? And then the last one, breathe. Practice breathing. So this is the basic. This is just the body, right? Now, do a okay job, do a good job, do a crappy job. It really doesn't matter. Just start, right? You're not aware of all the stuff. It doesn't matter. Great, just start. So now someone goes, okay, now what do I need to do for the rest? On the mind part, realize that things can change. Right now, you're having all of these thoughts and all of this stuff. Here's the biggest thing. If I had to pinpoint to one thing, I would say this. Those thoughts that you have in your head, you have the thoughts, but the thoughts aren't, they're not the only perspective. Let's just say it like that. They're one perspective, but there are a lot of different perspectives. So are you going to make decisions in your life based on that one perspective when you're upset, stressed, worried, and afraid? Or are you going to make decisions in your life based on a perspective that you feel a little more empowered on, you feel a little at peace with? Which one would you rather make decisions on? And it becomes really obvious. Of course, I don't want to decide when I'm okay. Then when you are having those thoughts of complaining, blaming, the world is so bad, just realize that you are emotionally charged. You are feeling afraid. That's why you're thinking that. So in other words, don't believe your thoughts. Don't believe them when you're having that, and they will happen. And don't believe it.
That's one of the key principles of meditation. Learning to take some distance. It doesn't mean fight your thoughts, but take some distance and watch your thoughts. Just look at them, label them, be okay with them, and realize that you're always going to have these thoughts. You're always going to have some unhelpful thoughts, but the way you look at them can impact your life, basically, and the way you react to these thoughts.
Right. And when somebody's having these thoughts, instead of believing it to be true, just go back to number one. Relax, move, and breathe. And what happens is the thoughts start to change because the body starts to feel more calm. They start to move towards peace. And then when they move towards peace, the thoughts go from, man, things are so bad, I don't know what to do, to, actually, I think I can be able to handle it, and I'm just going to try this out and see how it goes. Yeah. The thoughts will move into that. You see, they have the capacity to think that. But what determines whether or not someone thinks everything's so bad and it's going to all fall to shit? You know what? I got what it takes, and I can just give it a shot and see what happens. These seem very, very similar, but one perspective is fear-based perspective. The fear-based one is everything's going to be really bad. The more peaceful one is, I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. It's all right.
But work needs to be done by everyone because as human, we are not, let's say we're not favored by the way the human brain evolved in terms of fear. Because the way we evolved was the human brain is basically feeding itself naturally by fear, because we had to survive. We have a survival instinct. So therefore, we're much more likely to see the negative side on every situation, just because of how we evolved. Because we needed the food. Because we needed to escape this. Bear.
That's not.
So the work needs to be done by everyone.
It's a nice story.
So you don't believe in the story of I see the snake instead of the rope, right? Like naturally everyone tends towards this because of how our brain evolved.
If we are in fear right now, we will look at a rope and we will think it's a snake. But we live in this technological world and we evolved already, but yet it will still happen. and based on your beliefs, there's a dark area and you go, oh, I see a ghost there. The evolving, yes, things evolve, but what's really determining the fear, with the way we perceive reality, is just the emotion that we have. It determines the perspective, the lens that we see through. This has always been. Now, yes, things evolve. You know, the bodies are evolving. Yeah, things evolve. But what's really driving the way that we perceive things is the energy in the body. It's always been. Because what is mind? We can't poke at it, right? This is mind. No, it's not. This is my head. This is my hair. We can't even touch the mind, but yet we all have it. So what is affecting the mind? We have to know if we were going to talk about, thoughts. And if a person ever did a little bit of self-inquiry, self-awareness, to where they observe the way their mind is, and now let's say they go and eat a lot of food. Now observe, how does your mind go? Oh yeah, I can barely pay attention. I'm dull. I can't really think. Okay, and like what we were talking about earlier. Okay, now stop eating, and stop eating for 16 hours. Now what happens to your mind? Oh well, it's more light, and I feel like clear. Okay, so you see, the mind changed based on these things. These things was a change in the body, a change in energy. So then now if we were to go ahead and talk about all these different things, like, okay, get into an argument with your girlfriend, with your spouse, right? Get into argument with your employees. And now look at your mind. So we start to see that all of these things are influencing the mind. So we go, whoa, there's a lot of different things. How can we pinpoint one thing? And because we look at everything, there is a common denominator that is changing. And that's on the basis of energy. Because we can say this is food, and this is person, and this is an activity. So they're all seem to be different, but yet the mind is constantly being influenced. Because all these things are changing that one common thing, which is the energy inside. And so therefore, the energy, no matter how it gets changed, but when it changes, the mind changes. And so therefore, if we look at the rope and the snake analogy again, what determines on how we see something is based on the energy inside. But how the energy changes is a lot of different variables.
So you talked about the emotional aspect, the physical aspect. What is the mental aspect?
The mental aspect, so remember earlier we talked about 3 stages. So if somebody's in the first stage, their goal is to go from victimhood, complaining, blaming, I don't have any power. They need to go from that to the opposite. Learn how to think positive. They may not be able to see it positive. I still see the snake, but I know that's not a snake. I know it's just a rope. Oh man, that's so scary over there, so dark. I might get robbed, but I know that the chances are probably gonna be right. So they know positive thinking. They start to develop it, and they take responsibility for themselves. Right? This is my life. I'm responsible for it. So that's what's needed on the mind for stage 1. Stage 2, once they develop that, now these are the type of people walking around. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing great. How you doing? I'm doing great. High five. Everybody's positive. Good. So now at this point, they need to move into stage 2. Stage 2 is we shut off the conscious mind. So it's not about learning more positivity. It doesn't do you any good anymore. Why? Because in stage 2, we are needing to increase our awareness, access more information. You want to level up. You want to access more information, process more information, understand more information. To do that, we have to remove the information in which we're focused on. So if I'm thinking about something, then my attention goes to this thought. Now, how much more things can I be aware of? Well, the answer at this moment, I guess the answer is a lot. But if I am thinking of this, how much of my attention is being taken here? Let's say if I have 100 units of attention and I'm thinking here, and I'm really focused on it, it may take 80% of my attention to focus here. So I have 20% to be aware of everything else. Now, there's a lot of everything else happening. So if I want to be able to know more things, become more intelligent, then I take my attention back and I don't focus on here. So now if I don't think about this thing, do I actually still know this thing? That becomes the next question. Here's like a real life example. So I grab this cup of water and then I drink this cup. Some people will say in their mind right now, oh man, I'm thirsty. Oh, I'm gonna drink this cup of water. Oh wow, this cup of water tastes a little like lemony. Oh, so good. Oh man, I'm glad this water's here. Now, they can have this dialogue, right? This commentary, always thinking about something. Now the question goes, did they need to have those thoughts in order to do this action? Could they just do this action without the thinking, without the conscious thinking, without the voice in their head? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right? Complex things, maybe not, but simple things, yes. Right? I go pee. Do I need to go, hey man, I need to go pee. Oh man, where's the restroom at? This is a dialogue in somebody's head. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. But yet, this is what happens. They do have this dialogue for some. And the people that have this dialogue, their attention is not able to be aware of all the infinite amount of things because their attention is sitting there talking about things that is unnecessary. So now their awareness, attention is limited. So then when we start to silence the conscious mind, there are a lot of things that we can still do without having to have a dialogue about it. We can walk, we can type. Do we need to go A, D, J, F? No.
Yeah, we can
Drive.
We can drive. Absolutely.
We can do so many things, right? So many. So now all of the attention that was utilized before in thinking about this and that is now freed up. When you're talking to somebody, do you need to go, wow, he's thinking this. Oh man, what should I say next? Not necessary. Because if we did, less awareness can be paying attention to what's happening. So therefore, when we silence our mind, what naturally happens is that our awareness is available, our attention is available, and this attention can gather more data at any given moment. And this data that we are aware of, that we know of, allows us to make better decisions, better choices.
It's basically the principle of becoming an expert. You're building these neural pathways that enable you to do these brain shortcuts so you don't have to do all this thinking anymore, so you can be more efficient. And then you're basically adding the level of saying, once I have these shortcuts, it's not only helpful because I can do things faster and better, but I also have much more
It's not a shortcut.
conscious availability to gather other data.
It's not a shortcut. It's more like increasing your memory in your computer, increasing your RAM, right? The computer, if it has really low RAM, it can only process a little bit at a time. You try to get process something else, it just spins and doesn't do anything. So now us, same thing. If we are constantly processing, we have all these windows open, and then we try to open up a new thing, it's so slow. But then if we close up all of the windows, we have all of the RAM to go ahead and process whatever we put on there. And now, same thing. So now if we are not constantly processing information, our awareness, our attention is fully available to go and do the higher thinking tasks. The tasks that require more attention, right? It doesn't require much attention to go use the restroom, grab a water, or go type for some people. You see, so this higher level task is directly based on somebody's skill set, somebody's experience, what somebody knows. So it's different for everybody, right? Somebody that doesn't know how to type, oh, they are focused. Somebody doesn't know how to drive, they are, paying attention. You and I, we drive, we don't even have to pay attention, we know how to drive. But the same idea still applies. When we can take back our attention because our mind is silent, that attention can be applied to higher level tasks, whatever that higher level task may be for that person.
So is this answering the question of what is the mental component of these three components, physical, emotional, and mental? So I meditate every morning, 15 minutes. What should I do concretely upon waking up at home before meditating to be able to go deeper and strengthen my energy and my frequency?
So here's what I recommend. I do 5 things. First thing is I shake the body. I shake the body because it's a really fast way to warm up the body. We shake the body, vibrate the body. I tap throughout the body. So this way I can activate the nervous system. After that, do a little bit of strength training. Exert some energy. Okay? Get the cardiovascular system activated. Get the lymphatic system activated. Generate a little bit of heat. From there, you need to go and bring it back down. Relax. Stretch. Stretch. Bend the body around. So now the body feels really loose. You see, if we didn't do strength training and you just shaked it and then you stretch, then there can be a lot of pent up emotions that need to be released. And it's not going to be released really effectively through just stretching. Shaking helped, but there needs to be some exertion. You know, when somebody gets mad, they go, boom.
Yeah.
Right? They don't go, no. So we need to exert. So then after that, you stretch, and after that, breathe. Open up the lung capacity, increase the amount of energy in the body. Because now, when we increase the amount of energy in the body, when we meditate, we can stay awake. You know how many people fall asleep? Not enough attention. After breathing, then meditate.
Okay.
Yeah. And when they meditate, now we get into a whole nother story of different types of meditations. You know, the simple thing I'll say with that, if I had to say one way without diving into all these other things, simple way, follow your breath and feel in your body. Mentally, here's what someone should do. Let go of trying to accomplish anything. Let go of trying to solve anything. Let go of trying to gain anything.
Yeah.
Someone goes, I want to gain a good meditation. You've already failed before you even start. Right? Let go of it. You are literally checking out. You're going to check out for the next, how long you meditate? 15? You're going to check out for 15 minutes. Can you give yourself permission to check out? Is your relaxation, are you that valuable to where you can give yourself 15 minutes to check out? Yes? Okay. Do that. That means our next 15 minutes, you have no responsibilities. Right? And then you can pick up all of your problems and responsibilities 15 minutes after. Can you do that for yourself? Yes? Good. Now I call that meditation. Because now there's nothing to figure out. So now my mind doesn't need to go and talk. Because what happens when we meditate? I got an idea. Oh man, yeah, this is gonna be great. I open my eyes, I'm so motivated. Yes, great, but you didn't let your mind relax. You didn't go ahead and let go. You just used this as a way to brainstorm an idea, brainstorm for your business, brainstorm for life. That's great, but you didn't meditate. Real meditation is taking a break, is letting your mind be at peace. So that's why I always tell people, just actually give yourself a break and just step away from life. Because when you meditate, you're going to automatically think about life. Step away from life just for 15 minutes. That's all. And then you can pick it up afterwards. And later on, you want to close your eyes and mind map. Cool. But you already did 15 minutes of a break, and you do that 15 minutes every day. It's a wonderful thing, even if it's just 15.
What would you tell people who still think that meditation, yoga, massages are some sort of charlatanism, do we say? Basically, they don't believe in it.
They don't need to believe it. Just try it. Try it and forget what people are saying. Forget the studies. Forget the scientific research. If you really feel that there is a need, if you know that you need to change something, the best way to do it is try it. Because who cares if you believe it? It doesn't do anything until you actually try and see it for yourself. Even if someone goes, this is the best food to eat. You eat it, it doesn't feel good for you. So what are you going to do? Keep eating it? My stomach hurts, but I'm going to keep eating it because no.
This comes back to our discussion from last time, which is maybe the pain is not just big enough.
Yeah. So therefore, if the pain's not big enough, they're not willing to go and do any work. They're just sitting there dabbling. When the pain is big, people don't waste time dabbling. They are taking action.
What would you tell to someone who says, I can't meditate, I'm not able to?
Well, when somebody first tried to do anything, the act of trying is the learning process, but they have to learn. But if they don't do the learning process, how do they expect to do it? It's like, when someone goes, I can't meditate, what they're really saying is, I'm not willing to learn. Because if they sat every day and tried to meditate, they will start to meditate. It happens slowly, but it will happen. But if someone goes, they try it a few times, then they go, I can't meditate. What they're really saying is, I'm not willing to learn. If you're not willing to learn, then you're not going to gain anything from that. It's like someone goes, I can't, I try business, but I can't do business. What'd you do? And then they tell you, right? Then and you're like, bro, that's it, but you just need to keep going. But you stopped, so you're not willing to learn to do what it takes. So yeah, you're never gonna succeed. It's the same thing.
Because I hear this a lot. I talk to a lot of, especially women who have sleep, basically have insomnia, they have anxiety. I'm like, there's two things you should try. Go to acupuncture. It's amazing. But I'm scared of needles. So they're not going.
Yeah.
Okay, try to meditate. I tried, but it's impossible. I cannot. There's too many thoughts. I'm like, if you cannot, it's probably because you need it in the first place.
What I was saying earlier would honestly be the best suggestion. Now, if they continue to try, it would eventually start to slow down. But the faster way to do it is to prepare the body and mind.
Okay. So these 4 exercises before the meditation.
It will completely change how they feel when they enter into meditation.
Amazing.
It will completely do it. I realized this because I had the same problem. I remember when I started meditating, I will set my timer on my phone for 5 minutes. 2 minutes in, I'm sitting there going, it's
endless.
I think I forgot to set the timer. I think I forgot to set start. And I look.
Yeah.
And it's like
not 2 minutes.
It's like 1:45. I'm like, oh. And then I'm staring at it just to make sure it's like not still. And then you see it 1:45, 1:46, 1:47. Okay, I guess that was all right.
That's really interesting because when you meditate every day, you start to really enjoy the process. You can get kind of some euphoric and some highs. If you go on holidays and you stop for a couple of days, the day you'll start again, it's going to be that again. You're like, did I forget to set up my alarm? 15 minutes, I feel like it's 1 hour. I'm going to miss my meeting. And then the whole thing is fucked up. Yeah. How do I realize if I'm stressed?
A lot of different ways. One way is look for the tension. Right? If you're tense, you are stressed. Now, if someone goes, but I'm tense all the time. Well, there's your answer. Yeah. Yes, then you're stressed all the time. Another thing is pay attention to your tonality. There's so many, because stress, when we say stress, what we're saying is like, how do I know when my energy is this way? Every part of our expression changes. It matches. So one of them is tonality, the way we speak. Another one is looking at our behavior. When I'm stressed, what do I usually do? Right? Do I eat, smoke, drink? Do I go and get defensive? Do I start to think in this way? This way can be, I don't like what's happening. I don't like this person. I don't like what's being said. I don't like. There are certain clues. And then once we start to, when we have the intention of finding when we are stressed, when we start to have that intention, we start to pay attention. And when we pay attention, we start to see. And you don't need to find everything. You can just find certain things that are very easy for you to spot. Over time, you can find many things, but somebody can just find one thing. For an emotional eater, the way they know is when I'm stressed, I'm hungry and I want to eat. So, okay, great. So when you're wanting to eat, you're stressed. You don't have to wait till you start yelling at this person. Mm-hmm. For a smoker, it could be smoking. For someone who's really tense, it's like when I'm stressed, I can start to feel the tension here, not just anywhere, here. Okay. So then now all you do is practice bringing your awareness here. So this way, when you start to feel that you're tensing up here, automatically you already know you're stressed, and you need to relax, because by relaxing, you actually start to let go of the stress, because that stress, that emotion, has an ability to move instead of getting stuck in certain parts. So that's what we do. We just look for certain things that that's showing up. Somebody can look for thoughts, but it's different for each person. Look for the thing that's obvious for them.
How does stress affect people?
I mean, it affects everything. On the level of the mind, this is the part that I really like to share, because sometimes people kind of forget. We were talking a little bit about this earlier. If we're stressed, then the way that we see things change. This is so important, because some people go, I'm stressed and I do this, but it doesn't matter that much. But if we pinpoint something that they really care about, imagine when somebody realizes that if I'm stressed, I see scenarios differently. I see my business differently. I see my team members differently. Yeah. I make different decisions. Someone goes, hey, Kevin, which way should we go, this or this? If you're stressed, you will make a different decision than the way you're peaceful. And that decision ripples, affecting everybody, affecting the business, affecting customers. That's how big stress is. So now when someone goes, well, I'm stressed, but it's okay, I can handle it. So what they're saying is you're making, I don't want to call it bad decisions. We'll just call it not the best decisions.
Unhelpful.
And you're okay with it. Are you? Well, no. I mean, I can handle, no, but are you okay with making so-so decisions? Because you can make better ones. But are you okay with making so-so? Yeah. Well, no, I'm making really good decisions. Yeah, based on your stressful perspective. But when you're not stressed, you will take a look at the same scenario and you will make a better decision. Because remember, when you're not stressed, you're not constantly thinking. You're able to have that attention back, expanded attention, which means you can access more information, which means every single business decision or any decision, you're able to have more data.
And to say, and we're talking about business here, but it's definitely not the most important. Relationship. If you don't know how to manage your stress, this could result into you leaving a relationship or breaking up or divorcing and not get the things that you deserve the most in life, because you have this program, this stress program that is making you act a certain way in a very unhelpful way, but that you might not realize right now. And that's even more important because we're talking about relationships and happiness and not just purely career or business outcomes.
Yeah, so when it comes to relationships, now this perspective, when we're upset at somebody and we see them, we only can pinpoint the things we don't like about them, the things we want them to change, the things that they are doing that's causing problems for us. And even though we technically know that there's a lot of other things, but we can't see it. That's the issue. We can't see it when we are stressed, when we're emotional. So it's really important that when we are feeling this stress, feeling this worry, we need to relax. We need to come back to center before we make any big decisions. And if we can do it, even in medium to small decisions, let it go. So I'm always showing people how to go ahead and let it go on the spot. It takes practice, so someone can't just do it, but if they keep practicing, they can let it go on the spot. So now all of their decisions become better.
How do you do that?
So when we're doing practice every morning, every evening, this is what I teach people. We do 60 minutes in the morning, 20 and 25 minutes in the evening. They learn how to do this practice. They start to identify which moves out of this practice is really effective for them. There are 60 moves in this practice, and they're all designed to go ahead and basically release, change the energy, get into a meditative state. After this person's doing this same practice every single day, they start to realize that move number 7, move 13, 14, 15 really, really helps me relax. And for somebody else, it could be something different. So now they take, let's say, these 5 moves and they execute them. They do them when they feel stressed. So I'm having a conversation with my partner, and suddenly I can feel this stress. I'm getting worked up and getting defensive. So now, instead of going, I need a break, at this very moment, I can either sit here or I can stand up and I can go ahead and do these 5 moves. And I can do it in 60 seconds or less. And now I come back down and sit down and talk. And within 60 seconds, my stress level was reaching 85, 90, and now it decreased to 40. And maybe not all the way because it's too short, but 85 versus 40 is a big difference. This changes how I'm going to interact with my partner, for example. And that's what we need. We need very quick solutions that can be executed on the spot.
Absolutely.
Somebody just needs to be able to, and this happens naturally, because when somebody's doing this practice every single day, it's the same moves, so they eventually get really good at it, and certain moves really stand out to help them. And they memorize it, so it's not like you need to watch a video, plug in a device, do something. No, at the spot, in whatever you're doing, someone goes, I'm on the laptop, and I get really tensed up, and I'm stressed, I'm on this meeting. What do I do? Okay, same thing, except you would need to learn how to do moves sitting down, not even getting up. And you can do that, because all we're doing here is learning how to let go of tension. And when we let go of tension, automatically this stress has an ability to move. Until then, it's stuck and it's building up. And now when it has ability to move, it can work its way out.
Yeah. How does nutrition play a crucial role in supporting mental clarity and emotional stability?
Well, so with nutrition, if we look at the basis of what we're talking about, which is the energy and how that affects the mind, how it affects our choices, we have to make sure that the nutrition is allowing the body to stay open for energy to circulate. You see, a lot of times people look at nutrition as what's going to get me to lose weight or gain weight, and they're just looking at just aesthetics, but they aren't looking at it in if it's going to keep the energy circulating or if it's going to block the energy. I used to eat a lot and get in bulk and do all that stuff, the cut bulk. I just stayed mostly in bulk for a while. And I just looked at it as, am I gaining weight? How does my muscles feel? And it didn't even cross my mind about how it's affecting my energy.
Yeah.
So we need to eat things that are easy to digest. Because if it's hard to digest, it stays in the body too long. And if it stays in the body, it creates blockages.
Your guts and stomach is your second brain, essentially.
We have to be able to fully feel this. Imagine this is like an energy container. Now, if this container has a lot of food in it, then less energy can be in it. It's like a balloon. This balloon is filled up with food, then there's less space for air, less space for energy. And then the energy that's taken up in this food is very dense, because this food is very dense. It's much denser than energy. So therefore, when our stomach is clear, we can have higher vibrational energy and we can have more energy. So we have to make sure that when we eat, we don't stuff ourselves. We don't ever overeat. That's just a general rule. The food that we eat needs to digest easily. And let's say if we eat something and we get bloated, well, then that shows that the digestion process, something is wrong. And therefore, either it's your body or most likely it's the food that you're eating. Right? So then now a person, when they're choosing how they're going to do their nutrition, it's based on digestion. It's based on keeping their body clear versus just on aesthetics. And then now they can combine the two together, because just because their body is open doesn't mean that it's always helping aesthetics. Most of the time, it's pretty aligned. Sometimes it's a little bit different, but most time it's pretty aligned. If it digests quickly, then it doesn't get stored. Right? If it doesn't get stored, a person doesn't really get overweight. So hand in hand.
When I feel down, I want to eat that cheesecake or that cookie, or I want to drink that kind of Coke. How do I stay committed to a healthy lifestyle even when I feel down? And we all feel down.
Well,
sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is, if we are eating the cheesecake or the Coke, be okay with the fact that it happened. Because usually people are having this double negative. The first negative is making a decision that isn't really good for us, eating a whole bunch of cake. The second negative is being upset that the fact that we made that decision, the upset that that happened. And this is what doesn't allow us to move on. Something happened. Okay. But if we always just accepted that it happened and moved on, we get past things much faster. How fast? The moment it's done, we're past it. There's some effects, right? You eat cake, it's going to take a little while to digest. A relationship breakup. Okay, so then you broke up. All right. But then now, if you let it go and you're okay with it, that happened, then you move on much quicker. But when somebody isn't okay with what happened, it's that double negative. One bad thing that happened and then upset about the thing that happened. So that's the first thing. Because sometimes, it takes time to go ahead and let go of the cravings, let go of the behaviors, let go of cleaning out the fridge, the pantry, letting go of negative people. These things take time. It's just not snapping a finger. But what somebody can do right away that will change instantly is being okay with the fact that these things are happening. And the moment they do that, already all the negative effects have dramatically reduced on the spot. Automatically. This is by far the fastest thing. And people don't look at it that way. They constantly try to change things, and they're always constantly experiencing that double negative or the triple. Triple is like something happened, I'm upset that it happened, and then I'm upset at myself for being upset for being. You see, it's all just make-believe. So when somebody can just do this one thing, they may not have perfect action, perfect decisions, but they can move on from any decision, and they're able to make new choices and be more clear when they're making new choices. And eventually the choices become much, much higher quality for their life, because that second negative that comes in affects the next choice. So they're never able to be clear and to be centered and peaceful, because they're always experiencing all of this upsetness of what's happening. I don't like what's happening. So it influences every choice after. That becomes a ripple. I make a bad choice. I just drank this, ate this, did this. I'm okay with it. Now I set myself up for a good choice after. If I'm not okay with it, it carries on into another not good choice, just because I feel upset about the last.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. More and more people feel depressed, sad, and some don't even feel anything anymore. Their emotions have shut down. So how can someone who has realized they are numb to most of their emotions get out of this vicious cycle of numbness and bring back the happiness that they experienced as a child or as a teenager?
Those three things that we talked about earlier. First thing is on the physical body. They need to relax. Okay, when somebody is depressed, when someone's experiencing all of that, they're tense. They're not able to go and let the energy circulate. That's why depression is just a name for energy, name for a low vibrational energy. But depression is different than anger. Anger is more energy, but low vibration. Depression is less energy and low vibration. So they need to A, relax, B, move, do something they like to do, but move, and make sure you're breathing. That in itself will instantly change the energy. The energy may go, suddenly it becomes anger. Now, anger is better than depression, because depression, somebody don't want to do anything. They lack the ability to take action. When someone's angry, at least they can take action. Even if it's, I'm going to get back at them, I'm going to take action, I'm going to prove them wrong, they're angry. So they need to do that. That's the first step. And that step alone, focus all on doing that. And automatically the mind starts to change, because the energy is changing.
Anger is actually a good source or fuel for change.
And a lot of people stay in it. It's a good place to change, because it gives someone enough energy to take action. But at some point, they need to get out of it. If not, they cannot move forward. I was angry for a very long time, most of my life. And when I am conscious and just operating normally, everything was fine. I'm this happy guy. And then when I get drunk, all the anger comes out, because I'm not consciously holding it back. So my subconscious comes to the surface, right? I'm not consciously controlling things. What's the subconscious? I'm going to prove everything wrong. Don't fuck with me. So that comes out. So then we have to, but it was the fuel that drove me to work so hard, needing to prove I don't like this, all that stuff. It allowed things to happen, but it does not have there's no longevity in it. That's why the things that was built would crumple eventually. So that energy has to change. It's good for what it is when somebody's super low, but it needs to change once somebody is on their way up. They have to let it go.
Which leads us to the highlight of this podcast, which is, how do we find happiness? And I actually made some research about that, and I found a few kind of elements that could help us discuss this and the audience think about that. The first one is authenticity. Sorry. People struggle to identify with their work and feel like they aren't being their true themselves. Freedom. People don't feel as though they are in control of their lives. Purpose. People don't believe that they're contributing to positive change.
So they all are connected. They're all one thing, just explained in different perspectives. So there was freedom, purpose, authenticity. When somebody is authentic, that means they're able to express without stopping themselves. And then when they're able to express, then naturally what they are passionate about comes out, whatever it is, because they don't try to do something they don't try to do something for somebody else. They don't try to show off for somebody else. They do what they naturally are drawn to do. Now, that automatically leads to purpose. Why purpose? Right? Couldn't it just be a hobby? Couldn't it just be a passion? The reason why it leads to purpose is because when somebody is authentic, that means they're okay with who they are, right? They accept themselves. That's how they can just naturally express. And then when they are okay with who they are, they start to need less things because they're okay with who they are. I'm not lacking, and when I'm not lacking, I don't have to constantly think about me so much. Right now, every day people walk around and they're always thinking about themselves constantly. What is this person going to do for me? What am I going to gain out of this? What am I going to get out of this? How is this going to affect my life? What do I want? What do I prefer? Me. When this type of person is also not authentic, they can't, because they are constantly needing so much to be more, to be better. When somebody's authentic, now they aren't constantly looking at themselves all the time because they don't need things so much anymore. Some basic things, but very, very basic. Roof over your head, some clothes, some food, survival things. So then now when they're not caring about all of these things, then what would they bring their attention to if they are feeling fine? And feeling fine, this is what we call abundance. When they feel like I have everything that I need. So now when I have everything that I need, naturally, where's my attention going to go to if I don't need any more? Well, we can call it outside of me.
Yes.
Now, outside of me can be people, nature, it can be a certain cause. It doesn't matter. It's up to that person.
That's the definition of spirituality, basically, right? Because the next question is, what's spirituality's potential impact on people's happiness? And if you study tribes, so I watched recently a TED talk by Rick Warren titled "A Life of Purpose," and in this, Rick explains what he believes is missing from the lives of many today. He says spiritual emptiness is a universal disease. I think inside, at some point, we put our heads down on the pillow and think there's got to be more to life than this. When we reach adulthood, many of us accidentally fall into this routine: wake up, go to work, come home, eat dinner, go to bed, repeat. We start living for a weekend instead of feeling alive every single day of the week. But why do we wake up suddenly one day feeling lost and without purpose? What is causing this spiritual emptiness? It comes down to the issue of meaning, of significance, of purpose. Why am I here? Why am I here? What am I here for? Where am I going? And these are not religious issues, these are human issues. And then if you look at tribes in the Amazon, that's really interesting. And that's what he talks about too. They stand out because people in tribes are just happy. And it's not because they don't have much or because their genetics are built different or they have higher levels of serotonin, but it's because their happiness comes from an innate sense of purpose, and their sense of purpose comes from their deep connection with spirituality, which basically is thinking about outside of yourself.
Well, what we would have to, in order to look at this, we have to look, what is spirituality?
I mean, for me, it's thinking about something that's greater than yourself. So it could be, for some people, religion. It could be, for some people, I have a family. For example, for a man, because we're men, I have a wife, I have a child, and basically I love them. It's loving something else greater than yourself, more than you love yourself. And therefore you find your meaning in life. You understand why you're here. But that's just my definition or my understanding of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Spirituality, as people dive more into this, words become very limited because it puts everything in a box, right? And then this box might be different than that box, right? So what does spiritual have to do with it? Well, the way that I've seen spirituality, it can get explained by a lot of different ways. One way to explain it would be connecting to our spirit, the part of us that is beyond the physical body, beyond the voice in our head, right? So that means when the voice in the head is not there and it's quiet, we still exist. We're still there, right? So when someone's constantly talking and they're like, oh, this is me, I'm in here, I'm in here, I'm in here. Okay, right. And then don't talk. Are you still in there? Yeah, you can tell. So you're still there. So you're not the voice. Well, if you're not the voice and you're not this body, how do you know? Well, cut off your arm, you still exist. Cut off the hair, you still exist, right? You're still there. So you're not the body. You have a body, but you're not the body. Just like I have a shirt, but I'm not the shirt. I have a voice in my head, but I'm not the voice because I still exist without it. So then what is this consciousness, this awareness? So some people call it spirit. But of course, this is just one perspective of many in this subject, you know. But being able to connect to this spirit, connect to this consciousness, we can say it's also energy because it's all one the same. To become aware of it, to connect to it, which is to bring our attention to it, to disconnect and to not have the physical body be where all of our attention is, to not have our mind to be where all the attention is. So therefore, taking our attention away from those and being able to connect to our spirit, connect to this energy. By doing so, the result of that is a different experience of life. This is where somebody feels connected. How do they find purpose from that? Because when they are connected to this part of them, they're not in their mind constantly chattering. Remember earlier we talked about when they're in their mind constantly chattering, the awareness is very small because our attention is all taken there. And now our attention can expand. So which means, what's my purpose? Right? If I have to ask, that's because I don't know. I don't know because my attention is very limited. I'm always distracted. But then when my attention is not distracted, it becomes very clear what my purpose is. I know. I don't have to think about it.
Have you found your purpose?
Yes. Yeah, very, very, very clear. Our purpose, we can think about it and try to connect the dots. We can access it by knowing. if we think about it and connect the dots, here's how we know. We are all equipped with what we need for our purpose. Nobody is left without the things they need. But what they need is a variety of things. You need certain experiences. You need certain skill sets. You need certain drives. Remember earlier we were talking about, right? Somebody suffers, that suffering becomes their drive to do something, right? And so they need certain people. Somebody goes, hey, man, you should do this, you do this. And it's like, oh, man, why are you in my life? Well, they're in your life because you're supposed to be in your life right now. Don't think that something is wrong with what's happening. Certain things are needed. When a person can actually let go for a moment, if they don't know their purpose, let go for a moment and just take a look at what has happened in their life. This is what we call life leaves clues. When they can take a look at what happened in their life and they see, I have done this, I have skill sets in this, and then they can also combine it to the skill sets in this. I have skill sets in this because I have done it a lot. I have done it a lot because I was either interested or there was a need. But let me tell you how to go very direct, but it took time to get there because I didn't understand what I understand now. And then if we look at my entrepreneurship path, I cannot go and fully explain and teach this if I don't understand enough about business because I don't know how to create a microphone. I don't know how to build a team. All of this is necessary to get certain information out, right? And then if we look at my struggles, right, my addiction to everything under the sun, you know, smoking, drinking, food, porn, gambling, you name it, substances, you name it. So then, you know, that means I kind of understand a little bit about addictions. I understand about structure. I understand about lack of willpower. I understand how to get up when I fall, because I've fallen a lot. So then now we look at all the clues. It's like, and then here's the thing. Here's the funny part. So, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to be a farmer. Not before, just, you know, a few years ago. I said, I'm done with all this, you know, coaching and training and fitness stuff, internet marketing, and I'm done with social media. I'm gonna be a farmer. I can live in peace, be close to nature, meditate, relax, deepen my practice. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I tried. I really tried. I currently own a farm right now in the Philippines.
So that's the Philippine story. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
I heard about it. Yeah.
So
that you were supposed to move there, but then you moved to Bali instead because things kind of fell apart. Okay.
So long story short, didn't happen. Even though I tried, did all I could, it fell apart. And then as it was falling apart, people are still going, hey, Mike, can you help me with training?
Yeah,
Mike, and I go, man, hey, Mike, when are you going to do this? Entrepreneurs go, hey, Mike, we're going to start this thing and we want to. And then for a long time, I said, no, guys, I'm not interested. That was the old me. And then when I took a step back and realized, wait, let me let go of my idea of what I think I should have, my control, right? I want to control my life. I took a step back and let it go and go, what's actually being called?
Yeah.
And then it became really obvious. But I had to go through hitting a lot of walls first.
What's my destiny? How can a mid-20s man or woman find their purpose as quickly as possible?
They don't have control over this. Now we're back to that. Right? We never really covered deep into it. We won't have time today. But the answer to this question, how do you find your purpose as quickly as possible? Keep taking action. Keep moving forward. There will be some times to where a person may need to withdraw and not take a lot of action because they need to go ahead and understand, figure out things before they move forward. Nothing is wrong with that. It happens. But that's not going to happen for every single person all the time. They should focus on moving forward, focus on doing what they really want. They need to learn and practice making decisions based on feeling good, centered, based on what they want to create and not constantly fear-based. People make a lot of fear-based decisions. And ultimately, realize that nothing is wrong with your life. Your life is going exactly the way it should be. Nothing is wrong with it.
Thank you so much for doing this, Mike. Where can the audience find you and connect with you?
Instagram, Mike Chain Official, YouTube, Mike Chain, or they can go to flow60.com and learn about this practice that I teach.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.